Hey everybody, I'm joined here by Jamey Schrier. Jamey and I had connected through LinkedIn, like most of the people in the industry have, and I asked him to come on here and kind of learn more about what exactly he's doing to help PTs and clinic owners, and for you guys to learn more. So, Jamey, I'll kind of turn it over to you to tell everyone about yourself, what it is you're doing right now, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, well, John, I appreciate of having me on and kind of reaching out. I mean, it's funny, most of us are trying to look at how do we get new patients? How do we kind of build our network? And you're proof. This is how you do it. You're brand new, more or less, into this healthcare world over the last year or so, and you just connected with people, and you did it genuinely, and you did it authentically. And I think we all can agree that. Genuine and authentic isn't as popular as
Yeah.
as artificial intelligence and artificial this and getting people trying to sell you every little thing in the world.
You
So
can't chat GPT relationships is what I say.
exactly, I mean, you could be a chat GPT hologram or whatever is out there now. I mean,
Yeah.
you could be sitting somewhere on an island and this could be all AI generated. Maybe in a few years it will be. I don't know, but
Yeah.
but it's good being on and talking to you. And yeah, I mean, as a PT owner or a former PT owner, I've been in this industry a long time, and the struggles that we have are real. The struggles that are people that are having right now with hiring and always with referrals continue to be a struggle just because of the amount of competition. Reimbursements, if you're a business owner, reimbursement rates are a struggle out there. Retaining staff, not just hiring them, but everyone's poaching them. Those are struggles. And then the biggest struggle too is just, we get into this business because we want to create something that is meaningful to us, that fills a purpose within us to want to help people. And what we do is we find ourselves trapped in this business and we feel stuck and we're not sure what to do and we're not sure how to get out of it. And we're not making the money we want. And we're putting so many darn hours, which is, hey, uh, working hard is a part of it. But at some point, when those things start to get a little bit easier,
Yeah.
um, so my story is kind of similar to that. My story is, when I started my practice, my wife now, my fiance at the time, she was the front desk. I was the PT in the back. We
Yeah.
did our thing. It was a blast, and I was like, what are people talking about? This is great. This is fun. My marketing was basically word of mouth,
Mhm.
starting with, of course, my mom came in and my dad came in and, every other friend and neighbor I had. And then we started to grow. And then it was like, all right, we need to hire. And we started to hire. And this is where a lot of the problems came from. John, I made the mistake thinking that people think like I do. They show up when they're supposed to. They do what they have to.
Yeah.
You stay late, you come early, you're doing whatever you need to help and support that patient in front of you and their family. And I realized that's not the case. I hired front desk people that didn't think showing up on time was important,
Yeah.
or they, just kind of wanted to do things their way, not the way that we were teaching.
Yep.
So this caused a lot of stress, a lot of stress. I mean, so much stress that, I actually had to go on some anti-anxiety medication, which I've never been on ever, but I was in a really bad place.
Yeah.
I can laugh about it now, but it was a pretty dark place. But you always go around smiling like you have it all figured out. And
Yeah.
and this is where things started to turn because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to market outside of just delivering good care. I didn't understand metrics. I didn't understand systems. I didn't realize you're supposed to have some type of process to hire. And people retaining people was like something that you actually worked on, not just you think they should because you're great and they should want to work for you.
Yeah.
So my business started to shift and I started to work more and more hours and not make more and more money. And I started to get more and more stressed. And then I started to realize this is not what I signed up for. And then a freak thing happened. My place burned down.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there was a fire, electrical fire
Yep.
on the weekend. Nobody was there, but my whole place burned down. And John, it was like having a snow day. I was so excited when I heard my place burned down because I didn't have to show up to work on Monday.
Which is
Because
not what you'd ever thought that would be the
who
case.
would ever say their place burned down and the words out of your mouth was good?
Yeah. Like an escape.
That's how stressful it was.
Yeah.
So I even contemplated, leaving the profession, maybe going back to working because I would have made more money as an employee.
Yeah.
And I finally realized, I said, Jamey, you don't know what you're doing. You've never been trained on business. You've never been trained on metrics or marketing or all this other stuff.
Yeah.
What if you actually just invested in learning that, just like you invested in learning your craft of physical therapy? So I said, you know what? I'm not going to give up. I'm going to learn how to do the business of physical therapy. All those books I've read and all, I'm actually going to learn. So I ended up hiring a coach, someone to guide me. And I thought it would take maybe a year and a half. It took actually quite a bit longer. But I wanted a business where I didn't have to show up day in and day out. I didn't want to operate on someone else's schedule.
Yeah.
I wanted to operate on my own schedule. So I ended up hiring great people, putting a small team in place, having great providers, front desk, organization, all this kind of great stuff. I focused on building relationships, supporting my team. And it took me a long time, but 9 years later, I created a business that was really unlike anything at the time that ever was
Mhm.
in our world. It
Yeah.
was in other industries, but not in our industry. In 2013, I had a business, small business, did about 1.4 million, not overly huge. I had a staff of 15.
Okay.
I worked inside my business not even 2 hours a week. And the reason I did is because of the team I put in place, the systems I put in place, the tools I gave them, obviously having great people, and me playing the role of the business owner, the visionary, the idea person, and having people that could help implement that. So what was interesting is I just shared my story on a webinar.
Mhm.
First webinar I ever did. Shared my story because someone said, Jamey, you got to share that story. I was like, okay. So I shared my story and people reached out to me and they asked me, can you help me do what you did? And I went, I guess. I didn't really anticipate this happening.
Yeah.
That's how I got into coaching. People reached out and I started helping them, loved it, and said, this is my purpose. This is my calling.
Yeah.
So I started focusing more and more people on, helping more people coaching as clients. They started growing their businesses. They were like, "Oh my God, you got to help so and so." Next thing you know, I'm inundated with people and helping them, and now I'm in a whole new business besides physical therapy.
Yeah. You just created your own business without even trying to. And it's like, oh my
I,
gosh, it's
I
almost like the best business model, you
this
know?
was not intentional.
Yeah.
So I went, look, if I'm going to do this, I need to do it the right way this time instead of struggling for years.
Yeah.
So I hired a coach in this whole, marketing, digital marketing expert business. Wrote a big check, nervous as hell, but I learned how to build this business. And, that was 11 years ago and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And I wrote a book and I've just helped so many people, which has been the most rewarding work I've ever done.
Yeah, and it's good to hear that, I'm sure you're not the only one that's ever struggled through that. I mean, I was just meeting with a clinic owner on Friday of last week, and we sat down and he, you know, explained to me he just started his physical therapy. He's been in business 25 years. But when he first started, he says the same thing like you said, it was really just him and a couple other partners. They knew what they were doing when it came to treating patients, but as far as running a business, they had no idea. Like he said, it took them 10 years. They got their 401k set up and this and the health benefits, and they didn't know. They just kind of did it because people said. And to your point, they didn't have that, thank God, almost that burning down experience, but it was an awakening for you of, all right, I need to change the way I'm doing things. And did you ever have previous to that, like any coaching experience, like in sports or anything like that? Or was this a whole new avenue where you're like, people want to listen to me? Almost like that imposter syndrome where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I guess it's working. Did that ever,
Yeah, I mean, to ask if I had experience before, I mean, not really. I think part of it is I've always been really good at once I understand something, I can explain it to people in a simple way. I can take the complicated and make it simple and understand it once I get it.
yeah,
So I had the experience, like this wasn't a weekend course I took. I had the experience of having gone through this myself. I've made every possible mistake. I've had the craziest things happen to me in my business. I've had a fire. I've had people stealing from me. I've been investigated by the Department of Labor. I had a staff person improperly do an improper screening on a client, ended up getting arrested and taken out in handcuffs. I mean, crazy
you hit
stuff.
the bingo card, right?
Oh, crazy
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
And every time I could look at it as forget this, I'm leaving, or what can I learn from this?
yeah.
So I was learning as I was going through this, I was learning this idea of every situation can be a situation you can learn from. So instead of reading the book, I was actually experiencing what the book was talking about. So I went through all of this myself. So you combine my just natural, unique ability of just working with people. You know, when I was in PT school, like people wanted to study with me a lot because once I learned something, I would get on the chalkboard and I would be like, okay, here's how I see this.
Yeah.
And it was just making sense for them. So it was kind of a cool thing. So when I started helping people, build and grow their businesses, I was combining my experience with the ability to explain things that they could understand. And what I realized is the less we did, the better results they got. Whereas most of us are taught the more, the better.
Yeah.
The more techniques you know, the better therapist you're going to be. It's overkill because we have too much that we're taking in, especially nowadays.
Oh my gosh, yeah, with
with,
everything.
with
There's so many
yeah,
different.
I mean, you're addicted to your phones, you're addicted to this, you got flashing lights everywhere, you got 100 people reaching out wanting something from you. You got you're dealing with your staff and your clients and your patients and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it is completely overwhelming for one person that's running a business
Yeah.
who is trying to make money and a life for themselves as well. So it is hard to do this alone. It is hard to try to figure it all out alone. So I experienced this firsthand. So once I was coaching, I just felt like this was just my element.
Yeah.
So then I started to, I hired someone to help me learn this business of coaching and how to organize my thoughts and ideas, how to write a book, how to organize the coaching company that I created, Practice Freedom U. And then I learned just more and more about how to be an effective coach. Like all of us, you just continue to learn and grow. So yeah, that's kind of what it's
And
been
you,
like.
and you said something that like stuck with me in the beginning, which was once you kind of took that step back, which I think can be a scary thing for people, you had this baby that you built up from scratch and you were always working in the business, working long hours was like a badge of honor almost. Like I hard work, hard work, hard work, which is great. But then you said once you started, not working in the business, but working on your business, you almost had like a switch flip for you where you could hire the right people to delegate almost and there's only so many hours in the day and you can only see so many patients at a time. So once you were able to kind of take that step back, you were able to see that growth. And then obviously the coaching thing happened. But like you said, you got into coaching, this was your new business, but then you hired a coach to help you coach. So I feel like for clinic owners out there and people in this profession of, it's okay to ask for help and admit that you don't know what you don't know. And I feel like that's honestly sometimes hard, even in my profession. You people come to a financial advisor for financial advice. You want to sound like the expert, but you might not know something. And as a PT, you graduate now with a doctorate degree. You're supposed to be that expert, but you're the expert in the human body, not necessarily running a business. So there's certain ways. So I guess now that you've been,
It's hard.
yeah, how long
I
have you
mean,
been doing Practice Freedom now for?
what was that?
How long is your business now, the coaching business? You said around 11 years now?
11 years. Yeah. Yeah. It's 11 years. And you bring up some great points, John, because the hardest part of the business, if we're going to separate businesses into three components, we call them stages of business. The first stage of business is people just starting out to about 400,000 in revenue per year. That stage, I call it the committed clinician, right? It's the stage one. It's just you, like it's all in. You're trying to figure out your craft itself, and you're also trying to figure out how to market and network, and you're dealing with all the other stuff, insurances or cash based, whatever you're deciding to do. Maybe you hire someone to help you. Like that stage of business is a difficult stage, just getting started, but it's a stage you could be profitable pretty quickly because your overhead's really low.
Correct. Yeah.
The most difficult stage is what I refer to as the overwhelmed operator stage. That's 400,000 to about $1 million. You see, that stage is where I struggled and where so many people out there struggle. It's because you now are growing beyond you. And that's scary. In other words, you got 2 or 3 other providers. It's more than just you now. The good news is this should help you with leveraging and growing and getting time back, right? Because you're hiring other people and making more money.
Yeah.
But that's not what happens in this stage. What happens is you hire people, yet you work more hours. Like you're working more because you're doing your job as a clinician, but you're also overseeing everyone else.
Yeah.
Because in this stage, you don't have really clear organization. Your operations and your systems aren't clear. You may not be as conscientious of your key metrics in your business. You don't have clear systems in place. This is the biggest challenge because you just said something earlier that's important. It's hard to let go. Like, even if you know what to do, it's hard to let go because you say things like, well, they can't do it as good as me. Or I tried to give it to them, they screwed it up, so I just took it back. It's just easier if I can do it. And a whole host of other excuses that we make. Now, those excuses might be real, but at the end of the day, you're still working a lot of hours, typically not making as much money as you really think you should be making. A lot of times, you're not even making as much money as your top therapist that you're paying, and you're in this trap. So most people are in that stage 1, stage 2, that committed clinician, overwhelmed operator. When you're able to get over the hump, that really big hump of $1 million, a couple things happen. One, you have enough people in place by that time. If you lose one person, you're not going to freak out. You're at 600,000, you lose a therapist, that might be a third of your business.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then that stage 3, we call it evolving entrepreneur stage. That stage is anywhere from $1 million all the way up to $3 million. And that stage, and there's a couple of sub stages, but that's kind of the big stage. That stage, it's really about putting together a management team, tightening up your operations and systems, really removing you from day to day to focus on growing the business. This is where the whole work in and not on. Most people don't understand really what that means. Working on your business when you're below $1 million, it's different than working on your business when you're above $1 million, because there's certain people you have in place. You don't have in place when you're smaller. So you're working on everything in, on, and all around your business.
Yeah.
But when you're above
time,
when you're above your that $1 million mark, like 1.3, 1.4, whatever it is, it's really about putting that team together, which again, it's not easy to do when you're still holding on to different things, right? Or if you still really don't have some processes and operations tightly in place, or you're not really clear on some of the operation and financial metrics. So you can see that as a coach, our job is to work with the person depending on where they are. And this whole cookie cutter thing that, one size fits all. If you've ever worked with a coach or worked in a program that didn't really work well, it's probably because what you were applying was not for the problem that you have.
Yeah.
Just like you
It's
treat
like
symptoms
anything.
with a patient, you treat symptoms in a patient all day long.
Yeah.
Chances are you're not treating the root cause. So coaches or good coaches, because there's lots of coaches out there,
Yes.
good coaches are working on root causes of problems. And when you're able to address that, your business can grow considerably with actually less effort because you're focusing on the thing that's, the bigger issue. So anyway, so that's kind of how I look at when we look at people and I have conversations. I'm looking at where they are in their business and what specifically do they need help with, and then guiding and helping them towards that solution to help them get what they want.
And that's great that you make that distinction, like you said, of you've because there's probably a ton of people that look at you and say, well, I'm only operating at like, that under $400,000 mark. I forget what you called that section, but
Committed clinician.
committed clinician, that's the word. Yeah, I wasn't gonna butcher it and give you the wrong thing, but like there's probably a ton of people like a younger clinic owner like yourself 15, 20 years ago or even earlier that they're looking for guidance, but they don't know where to look, or they're like, I can't afford a coach because, I'm making it's profitable, but I'd rather hire someone else than, look to hire a coach. And that's where someone like yourself would step in to then get you over, hey, look, these are the mistakes that I've made. Let me help you prevent them and get past that to the next section where you can.
I've never, yeah, John, you bring up another good point. I've never had a conversation. I've had millions of conversations. So when I say never, I really mean this has never happened to me. That someone, after I spoke with them, explained kind of where they are in their business, what the challenges they're having, and then map out a plan. I've never had someone say, well, that's stupid. Or, of course, I want help with that. I've never had someone say that. So everyone understands that, yeah, to get help with people that have already been there and done that, have helped other people, everyone agrees. The real issue comes is what you said. It's how can I afford it?
Yeah.
Or is it going to work for me? My business, my situation is a little different because everyone thinks their situation is different.
It's the uncertainty, the unknown that they're scared of. I got to make this
Right.
monetary investment when I can maybe go and look at something else that
Right.
I think will improve. And
what's interesting
yeah,
is my answer is this. That's true. It is a little scary. And there is an element of risk that you have here in investing in yourself. That's really what this is. You're investing in yourself to learn how to build and grow this business. But it's interesting how everyone made that choice when going to school. We busted our butt. We sacrificed a lot.
Yeah.
We got good grades. And then we wrote a check for a lot of money to go to school with no guarantee that you would graduate from school, that you would pass the boards, that you would get a job.
Yeah.
And yet we all did it. And now we choose to go into business. You're in the financial planning, financial services business. Yeah. Now, are you good at what you do? I would imagine you're good at what you do, but you're good at what you do because you took training. You learned. Yeah. You put a lot of time and effort in. And now you're moving over to the business of financial services. Very different than being just good at your craft. So how much time and effort have you spent on learning this business, the marketing, the operations, the metrics and the understanding, the mindset of how you think about this, relationship building, communication? You see, there's so many parts to this that's the scary part is, well, you can learn those now or later. It's really up to you. But I believe time is of the essence. I believe in just shortcutting all that and finding someone that can help me do it. Is it going to take an investment? Yeah, but it's never going to be anywhere close to what I paid for schooling.
Yeah, I mean that's it. You hit it right on the head there. That I constantly am having conversations with younger PTs that are graduating, and that number, if I had to take a bet on what that number was going to be, it's probably going to be over six figures. And
For
well,
certain, it's over six figures.
unless they had a very fortunate situation, but most of the time that is the kind of barrier to entry, whether it's right or it's too expensive or not. That's kind of the that's the stepping stone that you got to hit to even just get it, like you said, pass the boards, graduate, get a job. And now it's this business where I'd argue, or you correct me if I'm wrong, but the investment is probably fraction of that relative to what you're doing.
Oh,
It's a no-brainer, and you can make that back and not be
here's the beautiful part, John. Not only can you make the investment back, you can do as quickly as you want.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have a business, and the business allows you to apply what you learn to then get the result from it.
Right away.
Schooling didn't have that option. You had to pay,
Yeah.
learn, bust your butt, learn for the opportunity to make money years later.
Yeah.
This isn't like that. You get to do it in real time. And the only thing that you have to really come to grips with is, how bad do you want what you want, this vision that you have of this business, and how quickly do you want it to get there? That's it. If you're not sure where you're going, well, it doesn't really matter, right? If you're like, I'm just trying to survive, okay, well,
I can't help you.
You don't need me. You don't need really anyone with that plan. If it's like, well, I have a plan. Let's say you're a smaller business owner, 300,000-400,000. You're like, man, I want to get to $1 million. I want to have a handful of providers. So you're talking about several $100,000 and more money that you could get. So the question is, well, how fast do you want to get there? So you have to learn it. You have to then apply it. And then, of course, you're learning, you're refining, you're tweaking. You could do that on your own, which, good luck. Yeah. Or you could do that with guidance. So you start to look at it and you're like, can you imagine Tiger Woods, arguably the greatest golfer ever? Did Tiger Woods have a coach?
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah, he had a coach.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods was really talented. Really talented.
Yeah.
Would he have done as well without a coach?
No. I mean,
according to Tiger, no way. But why? Because Tiger's so good and so smart and so talented. Why did he need a coach that wasn't anywhere near as good as he was? What did the coach do that Tiger could not?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about that with my clients in the sense that, we're going to see things from a different perspective that you're not going to see and almost be blinded to. And I think that's what you're getting at with the business aspect of, you're too busy, with these blinders on in the business to even realize that there's a problem. And you might be producing a phenomenal business, but not realizing that. And I think that's what you're getting at. I love that point.
The greatest athletes in the world, the greatest CEOs of the world, business people, everybody has one thing in common. They all have a coach. Well, these athletes have multiple coaches.
Yeah.
Right? Multiple coaches.
Yeah.
Right? You're more or less a financial coach. They have a business coach. Like Tiger has a swing coach. He has a nutritionist. He has a fitness. Like, he's the one that really brought, I want the accountability and the expertise to help me get, because he had a big vision. I want to be the greatest in the world. Mm-hmm. So having help to do that is a noble thing, but you have to be vulnerable to say, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. Those people are incredibly successful. And, people might bash a little bit our profession, physical therapy especially, because it's becoming more and more expensive to operate, and we're not getting as much money. So people feel a little dejected, like there's no money in it. Mm-hmm. Well, I can tell you, the people we worked with, assuming you have a legitimate business model, like if you're seeing one patient an hour at $70 a patient, okay, there's no way you're going to make
You
any
need to
money.
fix that first. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a business model problem.
Yeah.
But most of the people I talk to, not all, most of them, I would say 90%, their business model is fine. If you learn actually how to run an efficient business, learn how to take care of your staff, learn how to provide what your staff needs, learn how to understand metrics and using the metrics to make decisions, learning how to deal with the self-talk in your head, because if we speak a lot of negative stuff. When you learn how to market your business, you can create an amazingly successful business, no matter where you are in the country or what specific industry, or you can do this, but you can't do it doing the same stuff you've done before. The world's changing, and we need to run things very efficiently. We don't have the luxury like it used to be many years ago, where you just got paid a lot of money. If you aren't the greatest business person, who cares? You're getting paid $180, $200 a visit. Who cares? You can't afford that now.
Yeah.
You have to run a business, which means you have to invest in you. And you have to invest in how to see the business, because just what you said, John, we all, including myself, we all have blinders in our own business. We are all flawed with biases. We all have them. We all have negative biases. That's why I've had a coach, multiple coaches, for 18 years. Why? I don't know I don't know.
Yeah.
I need someone, I know conceptually what I should do, but in the moment, I don't know if I'm making a mistake until my coach says, Jamey, look, you're focusing on this the wrong way. You need to look at it this way. I'm like, oh yeah, I just talked to 3 clients about that exact thing. He's like, well, yeah, because it's easy to see it with them, but you can't see it yourself. And I'm like, boom, that might make another $10,000 a month, that one piece of advice.
And what it cost you at the end of the day. I always bring things from a business mindset. I'm sure we're similar in the aspect of, someone's going to cost you, I don't know, $1,000 a month to implement or get a coach, but that return on investment is going to be $10,000 a month. I mean, you have to start thinking like a business owner and not oh my God, this is an expense, more of an investment in my business. And so if it doesn't work and you only get $2,000 or maybe you break even, okay, but you learned, and next time. But it's always that, no one's telling you have to go invest $100,000 a month, because you just can't do that
Yeah, you got to make it appropriate to where you are and what
Correct.
you.
Yeah.
And look, I had a coach once tell me, he goes, Jamey, I want the investment to be just large enough for you to feel a little sweaty on your palms.
Yes.
It's the whole Michael Jordan. You ever see I hear about Michael Jordan and his gambling?
Oh, yeah.
He's a gambling machine, right? He'll gamble.
Probably gambling right now if we speak.
Anybody, anything.
Yep.
So his story around golfing is, he has more money than probably most of the people he plays against. I mean, he's a billionaire, right? So, but he doesn't care about that. He just wants to gamble against you, whatever is going to cause you to be sweaty.
Yeah.
Whatever that number is doesn't really matter.
$2, he'd do it. Yeah.
Because he knows when the emotion is high, that 2-foot, 3-foot putt becomes a hell of a lot more.
It's like a 30.
And that guy is the greatest in the emotional, in the most difficult, high pressure pack. So that's kind of the same with me, and the way I kind of look at what we charge and work with our clients on. The money's not really for me per se. The money is when you write a check, the more you pay, the more you pay attention.
Yeah. I
want you to pay enough where you're not just going to take this and make this yet another thing you bought and didn't use. See, that's the problem with the $39 products and the $500 products.
It's not another Netflix subscription where logging on and off is going to make
your
bank account.
I want it where you can't walk away with this. You're going to show up. You're going to implement. You're going to fail, but you're going to learn, and then you're going to succeed. Those people create massively successful outcomes. The people, and this is what I try to do when I speak to people, is I try to, I'm not looking for everyone in our program. There's a certain type of person we're looking for. And the type of person that is not just coachable, but has some grit in them. Like they're a fighter.
Yeah.
They want what they want, and they're just open, saying, tell me what to do. Show me how we can do this. The ones that are like, you know, whatever, you know, I'm doing okay. I mean, if you want to teach me something, fine, you know, I'll listen to what you have to say. Those people, please do not call me.
You're wasting your time, you're wasting their time, you're wasting everyone's time. I
Exactly.
totally agree. And I operate, you know, my practice the same way. Part of the reason why I targeted, you know, the PT market and why we're talking today is, and sorry, my blind just fell, I guess. So there's a little bit of sun on me now. But yeah, it's the fact that I love working with people that are former athletes or are current athletes because they have that grit you talk about. They have that drive about them that they're gonna be invested in whatever you're recommending. You know, that it's almost like that barrier to entry of, yeah, could I charge, you know, say you charge $1,000, could I charge 700, 500? Sure, and still be profitable. But it's at that point that if I do that, are they still going to be bought into, like you said, that sweatiness of I need to show up? Am I implementing this? Is this priority number one? And it's almost like that's coaching in and of itself of because you made that investment, you know, you have to pay attention to those things. You have no choice or else, you know, I
Yeah.
gotta, oh boy, that wasn't good. Or, you know, you're going to
I,
motivate them to do it. I love
I wrote a blog, and the blog was around when I invested in a coach in this business, in the coaching business. So I had, you know, people reached out to me and they said, hey, I want help. And I'm like, sure, but I have no idea what I'm doing as far as I can help them. But how many times do we talk? Like, how do I charge for it? Like, I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
And they're all over the country. How do I do the call? Zoom wasn't there yet. Or maybe it was, but it was like just coming up. I don't know. But so I don't even know the mechanics of all this. So I know I was going to have to get a coach. And the coach that I chose was in this other program with me. So we were in this kind of like group coaching. Nothing to do with physical therapy. This was actually there's a lot of financial services people in this business. But he was a karate instructor and had a bunch of locations. Like he's like off the grid, but I knew he knew about digital marketing and digital stuff. So I went up to him during a break. True story, Jesse. And I said, hey, I got a lot of these ideas in my head and I'm trying to organize them in structure so I can kind of provide, you know, services to people. And within 2 minutes, he just pulled out his journal and went, and he goes, something like this. And he just mapped out what I said to him. And I went, yeah, exactly like that. He goes, yeah. Would you want some help on that? I go, absolutely. So he said, well, let's set up a call. So I was in Chicago. So I went home, set up a call a couple days later. And I was like, man, I'm getting excited. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be awesome. Then he tells me the investment, 33,500.
You
To a business,
you probably choked on your spit a little bit.
to a business I haven't started yet.
Yeah.
Like, you want to talk about I'm just getting in the business? I'm just like people are reaching out to me, but no credit cards, no money. And I went automatic. Oh my God. Yeah, that sounds great. Can I think about it? Like automatic default. Can I think about it?
Let me think about it. Yep.
We all heard it. We've all have said it.
Yeah.
So I know what it meant to me. It meant, what did I want to, what was I going to think about? I trusted him. I had a vision of what I want to do, 6-figure coaching business. You know, I'm going to help all these people. But that fear, that pit in the stomach.
Yeah. $33,500, you know.
I went to oh, it's a big pit.
Yeah.
I went to my wife and she goes, Jamey, you talk about this for months. I mean, you've talked about doing coaching like way before I started coaching. Like you just talked about, I could help people. I could help anybody. What's the worst thing can happen? And I went, what do you mean? I could lose 33,500. And she looked at me and she said, really? You're going to work with someone who you know and trust, who basically just mapped out on a napkin what you have to do, and he did it in 2 minutes. You're going to work with this person for the next several months, and you're telling me you're not going to get anything from this, like nothing that produces anything? And I went, well, no, of course I'm going to. He goes, so what's really the problem? And I went, just fear. Well, you can be afraid and not do it, or you can be afraid and do it. And I went, fine.
Let's just do it. Yeah, you get
Called him up. I said, I don't have 33.5. Can I do a payment plan? He said, sure. Wrote a check that I didn't have. And I said, help me do this. If I do what you say, can I get my money back within 90 days? He said, you do what I say, it's going to be less than that. And it certainly was less than that. That year, I netted about 35,000 the year. And again, this is the first year I'm starting.
yeah. With that investment, you net it, right?
I netted 35,000 after any expenses, coaching, whatever. I netted 35,000, which means I basically broke even.
Yeah.
And the next year, I quadrupled it. The year after, tripled that. So you're talking within 2 years, I now have a $750,000 coaching business. And it was because of that investment. And that decision I made to lean in, invest in myself, was the single greatest decision in this, which has allowed me to help so many people, because I was playing head games with my own self. And I realized that the statement, the more we pay attention, is that Michael Jordan's sweaty palms. If my coach said, Jamey, I get it. Let me reduce the price to, what can you afford? Like $300 a month? Okay, we'll do 300. I never would be in the position I am now. Never.
Yeah, you would have stayed where you were and just been like,
I wouldn't have listened, John.
yeah.
And I wouldn't have been able to coach someone else who was going through the same thing. Now I can help someone that is having those fears and those worries. It's ultimately their decision. Honestly, some say yes, some say no.
Yeah.
But what they're saying yes and no to isn't me, isn't you. They're just saying yes or no to their own stuff in their head.
Mhm.
But when that vision is big enough and you're just willing to invest in yourself and be like, you know what, I'm going for it, man, those people succeed. At least the people I've seen.
I've seen the same thing, and honestly, it speaks true in just business.
It's
Like we were
people.
just talking about before this. And the check that I wrote, or payment, I should say, to help my marketing. And you've said, like, you've seen the difference in my marketing from when I had this coach or didn't, and to now, and I've seen it, and I've gotten traction from it. Yeah, I would never imagine of
Yeah.
starting out an industry where they say the fail out rate is 95%, and then you just wrote a check for marketing, like that same clinic owner mentality of, I can't afford to do that because I'm too worried about making ends meet right now. Well, that might be a valid point to an extent. Nothing changes if nothing changes is kind of my way of thinking, that
Right.
something's got to give. It's you get to choose your hard. It's hard being poor, it's hard being wealthy. There's problems to each
I'll choose having money and I'll
yeah.
deal with the consequences.
Exactly. And I agree. And that kind of leads me now to my point of, you know, now looking back, and there's a ton of, young people they'll be watching this in the PT space that, aren't clinic owners yet, or working under, an umbrella of, maybe it's like a JAG type place, or maybe a smaller mom and pop shop that they started out. Um, you know, if they're thinking through their head, I'm sure this comes into their head. All right, I want to eventually, start my own clinic at some point, because making the money I'm making now, I can't be doing that when I'm 40. I need to think about maybe a business, or starting my own thing. What would you say, or what advice could you give to those in that situation, that are like the maybe contemplating, maybe they're 30 or 35, thinking about making that transition to starting their own thing? And I know it could be kind of a broader question, but seeing the progressions that people make, I'm sure you've seen people start out from scratch. I mean, you did it yourself, like you said. What would be the one thing you could give them that maybe they could think about or implement, or take a leap of faith, if it just helped one person?
Yeah. Um, You mentioned something about they're thinking about doing this, or they're thinking about going to business or doing a side hustle or whatever. I think the word think is a very dangerous word. Think, think the way the word is used mostly is how to think how not to do something.
Mhm.
When we say I'll think about it, we are telling ourselves, I'm going to think about every possible reason not to do it. It's psychology. We're human beings, you know. We have fears, we have worries, and the more intelligent we are, IQ wise, we're intelligent people, we're smart people, we're we have the degrees and stuff. We want to overthink and overanalyze. And yet, nothing is ever going to happen unless you actually do something, anything. So I would shift your language to an action.
Mhm.
I'm doing this. I am focusing on this. I am taking this action this week. Get yourself into motion. Because if not, it's easy to get caught up in the world of thinking about it, which, let's just call it what it is. It's a procrastination tool. It's an easy one because we've learned as human beings to say something where someone else has a difficult time responding to it.
Yes.
What do you say, John, if I say I'm going to think about it? Because you don't want to come off as a guy like trying to push me. So you go, oh, okay, well, all right, well, let me know when you go, okay, I will, thank you so much. But that conversation didn't go anywhere. You're not any closer to moving forward to doing what you love to do. And that's my job, is help people be decisive. I don't care if people work with me or don't work with me. That's not what I'm about. I'm about getting clear on what is it that you want and making a decision around it. If the decision is no, fine, but you can take the excuses away. You decided now's not the right time to move forward. But if you're saying, well, I'm really thinking about opening my business. Okay, well, then what does it look like? Did you write it out? Did you create a plan? Are you doing something of action? Did you look out from space? My first business, I was working for a hospital, my first job. My first business is I rented out space out of a gym 2 days a week, cash base,
Yeah.
because I didn't want to see people in the hospital. I wanted to see people the way I wanted to see them.
Yeah.
That's how I started. I learned a lot. Did I make a ton of money? I didn't make a ton of money, but it was like, beer cash or something like that.
Yeah.
But it learned me, I had to get my own filing thing. It learned me, how to treat someone with a table and a chair. It's all I had in the room. So my manual skills got pretty good because they weren't being used in the hospital too many times. How to communicate, how to follow up, how to do plans of care. I mean, it taught me a lot of things. So I think too much time is we overthink it because we're trying to be perfect. We're trying to be right. We're trying to make like the best perfect decision, and it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. That, there's another saying that says, people who get A's work for the people who get C's. And the reason is the C's know they're not the smartest in the room. They're just going to find the people who know what they're doing and get help. Whereas the A's are going to try to keep figuring it out and figuring it out on their own. They love their intelligence, which is fine. But in business, the experience of doing it is more powerful because you're never going to out-know something. You have to experience it. I never would have known what real executive high-level coaching is unless I wrote a check. Unless I wrote that really difficult check. And now I look back and I'm like, wow, I still use what I've learned. That was 11 years ago.
Yeah. That's
So, this is about transformation. And the only way for you to transform other people's lives, which is what we do for a living, not just as a coach or as a financial advisor, but as business owners, we transform other people's lives. This is important work we're doing. So what are we doing to transform our life, our thinking. Like you said, are we doing the same thing,
Yeah.
but somehow magically circumstances are going to change? How about lean into the thing you're most afraid of and use the saying my wife said, what's the worst that could happen? And then the second part that I've added, how likely is that going to happen? And the answer to the second one is certainly going to be not likely because it's not who you are.
You won't let it happen at that point. If you have that in your DNA, it's, you'll do whatever it takes to make sure. And maybe that's the push you needed.
Yeah. And here's the deal. Not everyone's meant to be a business owner. So maybe you learn that I'm not meant for this business stuff. I've had clients of mine work with us for a year or two and then come to me and say, Jamey, I'm not meant for this business stuff. There's a lot more to this. I don't want that. And I'm like, that's awesome. At least you know now, instead of spending the next 20 years of your life struggling.
Yeah. And
Because
that's,
there were certain things that they were just not willing to do. They didn't want to do this stuff. And I was like, well, this is what it takes. Like what you're doing right now in your business, you're out there networking and connecting. That's how we connected. Some
yeah.
people just aren't wanting to do stuff like that. Well, you might be able to scratch that itch and not be a business owner. Maybe you'll do something else or work for someone else or whatever the case is. So, that's the kind of the long-winded advice is stop thinking so much and just start taking action, real action, and things will start to evolve. That's my advice.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so true in everything, when coaching is a term I love to use just from my athletic background. It's just something that resonates in the sense that you said something at the end there that I kind of want to, finish up and wrap up on is the sense that business owner, if they or business owner that then transitioned out of business and said, I don't want to do it anymore, spent whatever the cost was to realize that they didn't want to do it anymore and got back 20 years of time that you can't spend money on and get back. And that's the only currency that isn't renewable, that you can't go pay, no matter how rich you are. Elon Musk can't buy back his own time. And that's the thing that, you in the coaching, business for physical therapists and clinic owners and myself in that profession is, sure, it is a cost, but what's the cost of not doing it, and what time are you giving up by still trying to get on the,
Yeah.
hamster wheel and do it yourself?
And it's an investment.
Yeah, and
You're,
yourself.
you're investing. I mean, you're in the investment world. What is an investment? Putting something in now to get a bigger return later. A cost is an expense that takes away. If you're looking at coaching or what you're doing as a cost mentally, you're showing up in a really bad place. But if you're looking at it as I'm using this as an investment so I can be better later to get a multiple return, that's a higher level of thinking. And that's why, unfortunately, there's only the same percentage of the people that do well. But here's the best part, and this is something I truly believe. While the same percentage of people, if you look at the same percentage of the wealthiest people and everyone else, it's always the same percentage.
Yeah,
The percentage never changes. What changes is who actually is doing it.
correct.
Who does it changes, not the overall percentage. So the question really is to the people that are watching this and listening, do you want to be that person? Do you want to be that person? Because if you do, there's nothing stopping you.
Yeah, because for every 10 people that do it, one are gonna do it right, and the other nine are gonna revert back to whatever excuse or fear. It's just human nature. And another thing I'll say is, I just have a post coming out about this, and I talk about this is, it's not gonna happen the first time, and if it is, great. But chances say that the first time doing anything, you're gonna fail, you're gonna learn, and then you're gonna improve. And that growth aspect is the way that I coach my clients is, the first financial plan that we put in place or coaching, the first coaching session that we have isn't going to be our best, right? Because you want to improve on that through time. And I love that, the way of thinking, like you said, it's an investment, not a cost, right? In an investment, you're looking at that asset that you invested in appreciating over time, right? Or else it's a bad investment. Same thing goes here in the sense that, you're taking a leap of faith. You have to, it does cost money to make that investment. But at the end of the day, you're looking at returning much more than you put in. Or like you said, you went from $30,000 to then I couldn't even keep track of the number that you said because then you said it 3 times and then 4 times and it was crazy. But Jamey, when you made that investment, was thinking, "Holy cow, $33,500? No way."
You know what my goal was, John? Because I wrote the goal down. My goal was to get my money back. I should have probably put a bigger goal than that, but my goal was if I don't do anything except get my money back by the end of the year, it's the same as me going to PT school and saying, by the end of the year, I just want to get the tuition back.
Yeah.
In other words, if I break even, then financially I'm the same, but I have all of this knowledge now. That was my rationale with this. And the first year I made about 35,000. So a couple more dollars than I invested. But then I leveraged that the following year and multiplied it by 4. So then I went over 100,000. Then I multiplied it again by 3 and went over 400,000. Then I doubled that again. So, and it continues to go up because you just continue to reinvest and reinvest and reinvest. And all we're doing is just getting better. That's all we're doing. We're just getting a little bit better.
Yeah.
Learning what to do, learning what not to do. And that takes practice. And, for those people that are wanting to do that, the next step is you can either do one of two things. One, you can take what we have as a practice quiz. You can go on our website or we can put the link up in your thing. So practicefreedomu, the letter u.com/practice quiz. It's a very simple quiz, 5 minutes, but it gives you a perspective of where you are in your business. And it gives you then tips and strategies of what to do, whether you're a committed clinician, whether you're an overwhelmed operator, evolving entrepreneur, depending what stage. So that would be the first thing to do. And then after that, if the timing is right, set up a time. I'll talk to you about it, talk to what we do, how it works, and see if it's the right fit for you.
Perfect. And is the best way to reach you, through LinkedIn or email or through the website, just so everyone knows watching this, what would be the best way?
Yeah, you can always contact me through my social channels. But the quiz is on our website. You can do that. And then you can always schedule a discovery call with me, which again, I can pass the link to you. But it's Practice Freedom U slash Jamey Schrier /discovery call. So a lot to remember there, but just
I'll make sure to include it.
you'll have the link. There's always ways to get in touch with me,
Yeah.
but I would start with the quiz though. It's free, it's simple, but it gives you a lot of perspective of what are the areas in your business that you need to focus on.
Perfect. Well, Jamey, I really appreciate you getting on and talking with me today. It's great getting to know you better. And again, if anyone needs to reach out, if they want to come through me to get to you, whatever's easiest, I'm here to help. And I'm glad we could learn more about what you've worked so hard to build. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks.